Tony, great to see you and finally put you to work. Do we have too many benefit scroungers in this country?
Hi, Patrick. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. I got cut off. Look, I don't think so, and I'm not sure that actually that's what this policy is about. Although it is the way that ministers were briefing it last night. I think what we do have a problem of is a shortage of workers, and the government thinks that part of the way to address that is to get part-time people to work longer hours. I mean, they might be right, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I think we need to do a lot more to help people, many of whom aren't on benefits, to get back into the labour force and help meet these shortages that we've got at the moment in labour and shortages in skills.
Is it fair to say that some people on benefits are on the take?
I think it's really hard to know. I mean, the reality is we've got pretty low rates of benefit fraud, for example. We've got pretty low rates of errors in the benefit system. And actually, a lot of the issues we've got around, for example, fraud and error in benefits are more where actually claimants themselves are the victims. A lot of it is more to do with kind of organised crime, for example, like making large-scale fraudulent claims or misrepresenting people's circumstances, try to get more money. We actually have a pretty tight system around requiring people to attend job centres, requiring them to demonstrate they're looking for work, and we sanction people a lot. We've got the highest rate of benefit sanctions now that we've ever had, and so there's quite a lot that's been done already to try to force people off benefits. But the reality is, like, a lot of people who are on benefits aren't getting any support at all, and they're not actually required to look for work. They're not required to be available for work.
Could you give us some stats? Could you give us some stats on the amount of people in this country who are on benefits?
So about 5.5 million people who are on universal credit, and that's split roughly evenly between people who are in work and people who are out of work. So the announcement yesterday was specifically around people who are out of work. Who are in work, beg your pardon, around trying to make people work longer hours. There's about bit less than 1.5 million people who are required to attend job centres regularly to demonstrate they're looking for work. And then there's a bit more than that who are actually about another 1.5–2 million, I think, who aren't actually required to attend job centres. Typically, they're people who've got health conditions or their parents are very young kids.
OK, all right. And so essentially, do you think it's unfair then to say to these people, well, you need to work harder? Maybe they've got other things going on in their lives. You know, like you said, maybe they have got a young kid. All is not as it seems.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, you know, I don't know. I think at the moment, this is, the government's trying to make a wider point here, I think, about showing that they're tough on welfare and they're cracking down on welfare. The trouble is what employers want is help to fill their jobs. So we've got 1.3 million vacancies, and ultimately a lot of people are out of work, particularly older people, aren't on benefit at all. They're living off pension. And so there's a lot more we can do to bring people back into work who aren't working. What I would say, though, is we've had requirements in our benefit system for 100 years. You know, for 100 years, people where you want to get unemployment assistance of some kind, you've got to look for work. I don't think anyone is able to do that, and I think we need to make sure that people who are able to look for work are looking for work, and that they can't turn jobs down. But that isn't really what we're talking about today.
That's an interesting one, because I'm concerned that people want to have their cake and eat it. There's a lot of people out there who think they're too good to clean toilets for a living. I've got to tell you, if all this falls through, or some might say when all of this falls through for me here, I had a wife and kids to support and a mortgage to pay and everything, and there's no job that I wouldn't do.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, if you did sign on for universal credit and you weren't assessed as having a significant health condition, you'd find it pretty hard to hide from those sorts of jobs, because you're required to account online for basically what you're doing all the time. You're expected to be looking for work or preparing for work for the equivalent of 35 hours a week, and you can't turn jobs down. If you turn jobs down, you'll lose your benefit. We do have we've got a pretty tight system on this. The idea that you can just kind of hide on benefits, not look for work, not be available for work, turn jobs down, isn't really the case, and it hasn't been for decades, actually. I mean, it's been a long time since that, and that's part of why Job Centre Plus was created 20 years ago, was to make sure that employment monitoring and job search and benefits payments were brought together. I think, having said that, though, there clearly are people who would rather not work than work. Yeah. I just think a lot of them aren't on benefit. And they're living off living off savings or other income, or in some cases they've got pretty chaotic lives and they're sofa surfing and they're not able to access support.
Yeah,
so I think there's still more we can do.
Yeah.